Welcome to my first ever kart race. I've done rental karts a few times before, but these ones, even the four strokes, are a completely different animal. I rented mine from the gentleman here just to see if it was something I wanted to keep doing. And yeah, it is. I've actually gone and already bought my own since recording this. Anyway, I knew nothing going in. I'm very familiar with the track, having driven it in a car a bunch of times, but that is a completely different thing to driving it in a kart. So I'm about to go out my first practice session here, and I'm just going to try and get an idea of what the kart can do.
A bit of gas? Not too much though. You rev it up too much, you'll burn the clutch out.
Last minute tip.
Go and have fun and just take it easy.
So that's going to be the plan. I'm driving in the Briggs Senior class, which means all the karts have a sealed 4-stroke Briggs LO206 engine, making about 9 horsepower. The kart plus the driver have a minimum weight of 360 pounds, which I was actually slightly under today, but it didn't really matter since I didn't know what I was doing anyway. I learned a lot this day. One of the first things I learned was to not point the camera at the ground. Actually, another thing I learned later was that you're not even supposed to have a helmet-mounted camera at all unless it's in visor, but no one complained. I'm going to get a better setup for my new car. Anyway, I won't subject you to too much of this nausea-inducing scene, but I just want to fast forward and show you some of my more egregious mistakes. Remember, I've never driven one of these things before, so I am trying to take it easy initially. I don't really want to just send it and go sailing off the track, especially in someone else's kart. Now, a funny thing about karts, though, is that in some ways they're kind of harder to drive slow than fast. Since they have a solid rear axle, they really only want to turn by lifting the inside rear wheel. Otherwise, since the two wheels have to turn at the same speed, it either wants to go straight or lose grip and spin. I definitely found myself doing a bit of that. I did manage to make a couple of passes, so that was fun. But yeah, a lot of mistakes. Most of the more obvious ones came down to using the brakes too much. I knew I was doing it at the time, but again, I wanted to try and be somewhat conservative. But I really am not used to, the rear axle kart brakes, so I found myself sliding around a fair bit more than I'm sure was ideal. Still, I am at least starting to get a feel for it here. The grip was immense. I checked afterward and I was pulling well over 2 Gs in some corners where I max out around 1.5 in prep track kart, despite, not knowing how to drive a kart. I was getting a bit excited here. I'd actually caught up to a couple guys, and yes, a couple more just sailed past me. But anyway, trying to keep up to them all and overcooked it a little bit right here. Another thing you're supposed to do is put your hand up when you spin or are going slowly for whatever reason, but forgot about that. So that was it for practice 1, got the checkered flag. Did try and get one last spin in there before bringing it home. But nothing too catastrophic, and I learned a ton in 5 minutes. Mostly all the things I didn't yet know. So, once I made it through this 5-minute session, I sought out some advice from faster drivers.
First easy question is, what corners do you not brake at?
He doesn't brake at all.
You don't brake anywhere?
I only brake right here.
Coming down this straight into there.
Coming into this section, you do the 2 rights, and then it goes back left.
Yeah.
I brake when you go left.
Oh, you don't even brake for there.
No.
Okay. So you're...
The first turn, I just let off early and roll in.
Okay.
And then everywhere else is pretty much flat.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm definitely braking too much then.
Well, at least that makes it simple, not easy. Now, sadly, I don't have the second practice session on video because you could have seen my moment of triumph turning to near disaster. I was following a group of 4 guys as they battled and managed to pick my spot and dart up the inside on the whole group of them, making 4 passes into one corner. Or I would have done if I hadn't entered too fast doing it and sailed right off the track into the gravel. No harm done though, although I did have a nice collection of rocks in my seat after the session to show for it. Anyway, that moment notwithstanding, I did manage to pick up the pace somewhat, which was good because next was qualifying. And just skipping ahead a bit, that got off to a rather exciting start when this happened. So I had a couple scruffy laps after that, and then I was on a good one, but wasn't able to find a good way to get around this guy until he decided to get around himself instead. Finally, though, I managed to hook up an okay, well, for me, lap right at the end here. The lines weren't ideal, and a couple of faster guys still did sail by me, but it was ultimately good enough for 12th on the grid, I think, out of 22 or so. So, here's that. One lap, we see both how far I've come and how much farther I have to go to catch the mid-runners. But it didn't matter. Next up is the pre-race, which is like a sprint before the main race, and that's when the fun really starts. On the first formation lap, somebody got out of shape. It wasn't even me. So we ended up doing two. Now we're coming around the last corner of the second one here, getting ready for the start. I don't have a lot of experience, but I do know that one thing that's a very good idea is to not wreck on the very first corner. So that's my main plan here. Try to get a good start, stay with the pack, don't wreck. And there we go, I did get a decent start, made it through the first corner, and I'm being a bit conservative here, but I mean, that's alright. I'm not trying to win anything. Just trying to get through the race and, you know, try and keep up with the pack to some extent. See if I can learn something following some faster drivers, like number 46 in front of me here. Now, he is going to get by pretty quickly, I think, into the chicane coming up. And then I'll slot in behind what looks like the 66, but I think one of those is crossed out. He's actually the 6 up ahead there. And he's really going to feature into my race quite a bit here. There we go. He gets a little bit out of sorts through the chicane there, which is not the last time that's going to happen. 46 goes by him, and pretty soon he'll be well out of our view. And we're going to go back and forth with number 6 here quite a bit. Well, I got a little bit deep there. I think was busy watching those two fight and wasn't paying attention to what I'm supposed to be doing. This is actually going a little bit better than I expected so far. I really thought that most of these guys would be well away from me and I'd just be kind of on my own by now, but I'm sort of keeping in touch and even made up a little bit on our soon-to-be rival number 6 there on that corner. Now he's really going to be all over the place through the chicane here, and that's just going to let me slot right by without a whole lot of work. So that was great, and at this point I'm thinking, okay, he's gone, and the next goal is to catch up to these next guys. That might have been a little bit optimistic. Still at this point I'm thinking, hey, yeah, I'm catching them, this is going great. Really need to work on my line through there. It was about 10 feet off the apex. 46, I think, was actually having some either an engine problem or some kind of problem with this kart, because he's definitely faster than me, but I sailed by him fairly easily there. Now, as these two are fighting, I'm starting to think maybe this will provide an opportunity at some point. Perhaps I can recreate my glory from practice 2 without the unfortunate result. You can hear my kart hitting the rev limiter there. I think the gearing was actually slightly shorter than is ideal for this track. And you can see that play into the race a little bit later on too. Alright, there they both went a little bit wide. I'm really closing up the gap here. If I can get right in behind them, all it's going to take is a little bit more fighting. And oh, okay, what happened there? 1, 2, okay. Maybe I need to actually be thinking about what's behind me as well as what's ahead. Whoa, all right. Well, that's one way to make a pass. Yeah, 46 is definitely down on power because I shouldn't be able to just fly by him like that. Ugh, and I'd really prefer that our friend number 6 there didn't barge by me like that. That right there was really actually when I took notice of him for the first time on the day, and I'd call this the beginning of a nice little rivalry. Skipped ahead a little bit. He pulled a bit of a gap on us, but we're coming up to the final chicane here, and I found I was often able to make up some ground there. Here you see that short gearing come into play, as well as the power of the draft in karting, which is really quite significant. That first corner over the bump is another place where I was often gaining ground on him, but unfortunately it's really difficult to pass through that windy bit there, so not really able to take advantage of it. However, we're coming up to another driver here, so I'm thinking maybe they start fighting and an opportunity could arise. And that's not exactly the opportunity I was looking for, but I'll take it. Maybe coming out of this last corner again, though. But no, again, as soon as I get out of the slipstream, I just don't quite have the momentum to get past. The best place really to pass is under braking going into the first corner at the end of this straight, but in this circumstance I'm actually going to do the opposite. Or perhaps I'm just letting this guy demonstrate what I was talking about. Seriously though, aside from poor lines and generally not knowing what I'm doing, part of this is coming down to the kart having shorter gearing, so I'm able to gain at the beginning of the straight, but by the end of that long one, I'm essentially on the rev limiter, so the karts ahead, or actually the kart behind in that case, are pulling away on me, which obviously makes it a bit difficult to send it up the inside. But we're still in a great three-way battle here. Now, here I'm actually going to make another mistake that I was doing quite commonly throughout the day. Essentially, here I'm about to attempt the old switcheroo, when you're gaining, but you can't get ahead on the entry to a corner, so you instead take a late apex and get a better exit so you can get them down the next straight. But I don't need to swing out nearly as wide as I'm going here. I'm basically just driving extra distance for no benefit. I think it's that I'm used to driving a car where you can really take advantage of that straighter exit line by getting on the power, but in these karts you're essentially flat out all the time anyway. So skipping ahead a bit, we're on the final lap now. I'm going to see if I can close up some distance into this first corner, and I do manage to do that. So now the goal is really just going to be to stick with them and maybe see if I can make a move in that final chicane. But this here is what we call a defensive mistake, where he makes a mistake, but it ends up really costing me more than him. So this opens up a little bit of a gap, and it's going to be pretty difficult to close this back up in the last corner, especially since we're going to hit a lap kart here, I think. But hey, I can't complain about that. My goal at the beginning of the race was not to wreck in the first corner, and ideally not to finish last. Both of those things accomplished, so hey, let's go. And we still got the final to come. So I guess let's jump right into that. Here we are on the formation lap behind number 6 and no number, basically picking up where we left off. Going to try and get a good start here. Once again, safety is the most important thing, but if we can pick up a place or two, even better. right, there we go. Placer 2 indeed. Now, somebody's slowing down over on the left here, and I actually backed out a little bit because of that, which might not have been the best idea, because here comes this guy. I'm sort of in an awkward position here, because I barely know how to do this corner when there's no traffic, and when there is, well, okay, that happens. So, there's that Placer 2 back, but, you know, maybe I can actually fight for this one for a little bit. Now, of course, some of those guys I passed right at the beginning there are actually faster than me, so I'm not likely to stay ahead of them, but I'll stay ahead as long as I can. Which, as it turns out, skipping ahead a bit here, was about 1 lap. But this is actually good. He's a bit quicker than me, so I'll just see if I can stay in touch with him here and maybe learn a little bit about the lines. Not that line, though. That was not the line. So we did that for a lap, and then here comes our old friend again. He's got the inside line on me, so I'm going to try this same switchback again. I go too wide on the first one and miss the apex, but on the second one onto the main straight I get a little bit better than last time. Just not quite enough to make that lunge as I run out of revs here. Man, watching how I'm missing each of these apexes by feet, I really can't wait to get back out there. Already feel like I've learned so much just watching this and looking at the data, you know, talking to other guys and all that. Right now, though, our friend is pulling away from us. Hopefully we can make up some ground on this last chicane like we're known to do. And then maybe into one again, and just wait for him to make a mistake, I guess. Did get a bit of a run out of there. I've obviously got a little bit more distance to make up this time around than before, but I think we can get back in touch here. Coming up here, I'm going to take this corner, I won't say well, but like semi-competently for perhaps the first time today, and just look at how much ground we gained there. That was nice. And with that one too, at least being near the apex, look at that, we're right back in touch. So now if we can get a good line through here like we have been doing, and yeah, he's getting a bit out of shape, out wide. And there we go. Can we make this happen now? No, we cannot. As soon as we pull out of that draft again, we just don't have the speed to get by. Maybe we can make a lunge up into one here, though. But the gap is starting to open up, so yeah, maybe that's not the time. It appears that the time is getting further away from us rather than closer as we might like. Maybe we can take this corner competently again. Yeah. It was okay. This is good though. This is good. We're gaining. We might have a shot here, and we're going to do it. We're going to send it up the inside. And pass done. Look at that. I'm sure that's the last we'll see of him, right? Maybe not. Couple wheels in the dirt never hurt anybody, right? That's the one nice thing about not having mirrors in these things, is you can't see how much closer your opponent gets to you when you make a mistake like that. Ah, and it appears 46 got his kart sorted out between stints there. Now, this next corner is going to be a little bit exciting, but mostly not for me. I do appreciate him not sending it into the side of me there. The rivalry really could have intensified. So we're going to catch up to some traffic here at a rather inopportune time for me. I'm not really sure what to do because there's no real easy way to get by them, so I back out a bit, and our friend here takes advantage. But fortunately for me, he ends up kind of in no man's land there, and I managed to swipe back here and get all of them, so I was actually pretty happy with that. Now my line into this corner is not ideal. I'm apexing too early, and you could hear there that I wasn't able to get on the throttle as soon as I usually would because of it. Now, I've I'm thinking here that I've gotten away with this because you can't really pass through the S's, but it turns out you can pass right here. And of course he had more momentum than me going through there because he must have gotten a better entrance. So, we're back to chasing. He's getting away. And missing apexes like that doesn't help. Alright, head down here, lots of time left. Now he actually gets a bit of a poor line through there, I think maybe distracted by the slower cart in front of him. So this is a bit of an opportunity for me. And I even managed to get the switch back just about right that time. So I didn't lose too much ground. Now here's our favorite part of the track. Hopefully we can gain a little bit through here again. And actually that was one of my better lines through there. I didn't swing all the way to the left and waste time like I have been other laps. That was okay. I'm at least not losing ground as quickly through here as I was in the previous lap. I've often been better through these next couple of corners, so if I can hook them up, I might be able to gain some ground. And I was a couple of feet off the apex there, but I think he was even further, so still gaining. There we go. Okay, can we make a run down this straight again? Where we got him last time, and I think we can. That was almost a carbon copy there. So now, I'm sure that's the last we'll see of him, right? One thing I probably should have been thinking about here is that. You'd think, given every single time I was behind him, he was pulling away at that point, I might have clued into the fact that he would probably be gaining on me there too, but I haven't quite achieved that level of racecraft as yet. Now, unfortunately, coming up here is where things really unravel. That little mistake put me alongside, but I'm stuck on the outside here, so I'm going to try the old switcheroo again. Of course, once again, it appears I've overdone it a bit, and then, that's right, my GoPro battery dies. Now, I would be pretty disappointed, but this kind of thing happens to Super GT all the time, so I think it just means I'm a real YouTuber now. But the reason this is so tragic is because the end of this race was absolutely awesome. So I'm going to recreate it for you here. After going back and forth a couple more times, I was behind the number 6, as you've become familiar with by now. It was the last lap, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to catch him, but as has happened a few times, he got a bad exit out of the very last corner, and I was able to get a run on him down the straight. It was kind of like this, but imagine the finish line is right here. That's it. I literally managed to edge ahead of him by about 3 inches right at the line. On the live timing, it was literally 0.02 of a second. So fun for a first race. We gave each other like a big fist bump after crossing the line, and I went and chatted with him afterward. Really nice guy. So I guess we can call off the rivalry. In the end, I finished 10th, and I mean, what an amazing day. I can't wait to get back to it in my own kart. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.